So we did now live.
The universal share.
I mean, we did now live, right? So we are live on Facebook already. So on YouTube. But what I want to do now is just go ahead and share on the various platforms. Let me go
Yeah.
YouTube.
So if I might go for my Facebook too, then share, right?
Exactly.
Okay. Okay. I don't see her. Okay. Share.
Let me go and share this.
Okay. I don't share her for my this thing.
This thing will take time so long. Let
me share. Okay, let me just share on some of my Facebook groups. Good morning, everyone. Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Good morning, guys.
Good
How
morning.
you guys
Good
enjoying
morning.
this Saturday, man?
It's a Saturday.
Hope it's going to be better.
Unfortunately, no EPL this weekend, huh?
No,
That's why we're here.
no serious football this weekend.
Yeah, even the internationals, we have to wait, and it's quite unfortunate that you have to play those games during the week, man. It would have been better if we had one of those games over the weekend.
Yeah. So they resume club football next weekend, right?
Yeah, with a banger.
But,
so let's go. Good morning once again. Good morning once again. I'm here with three able gentlemen, football, encyclopedia, as Ajab actually likes to call it. So I'll let you guys actually introduce yourself. I'm here with Awasong, Ajab, and Kenneth. Good morning, guys. In any order, just introduce yourself for those who don't know you.
Well, let's go from oldest to youngest. I'll go last.
All right. Okay, let me go. All right. So I'm Awasung, also known as Capello Zago from Kumba. So you can understand where the passion all started.
Ajab, let's go.
Yes, Ajab Abakwa boy, based in Canada, Ottawa. I am an obsessed football lover.
And you also have a podcast that you run now.
Yeah. I run it. Yeah. Thanks for that. I wanted to say that during our actual analysis, but thanks. I could say that at the start. I run it with one of my buddies, Elvis Balak. It's called Abakwa Talk Sports Show.
Okay, Abakwa, yes.
We try to bring back memories of football, Bamena, all over Cameroon, and sometimes to talk about international football.
Amen to that. Yeah. So if you don't know about that, just go. These guys are actually on YouTube and Facebook, Abakwa Talk Sports Show. So you can follow them up. We have to support each other. Last but not least, Kenneth.
Yeah. Yes, Kenneth. I grew up in Yaoundé, based in Texas now. I love football, but I think I love FC Barcelona a little bit more. I love football, so
okay.
If Barca is not doing well, my love for football disappears completely.
So it means right now you're depressed.
Okay.
No, we're okay.
Maybe I should make a comment with that. Obviously, I grew up started with PWD, of course. Then internationally with AC Milan. When I was a kid, because of the three Dutch boys, Van Basten, and Gullit, and Mondo Rijker. So that's how the journey started. And actually, from my attachment with AC Milan, that's where my admiration for Fabio Capello started. And well, Ajab, you are testament to you're my weakness. You know,
Yeah,
so
I've been talking football with this guy since 1992 when we got into Sacred College. So, and we talk almost on a daily basis. 70%
yes.
is football, 20% is education, 10% is social life and all whatnot, you know.
Great,
But
great.
I'm the moment I'm with Man City because of Pep Guardiola, and just a little background. My support for Guardiola actually generated based on the fact that many Africans rejected him. Well, you know the history, so sometimes we have to be stubborn. So it's out of stubbornness that I decided to reject the popular side. So I went for Guardiola. So
Okay, okay. And I don't know, touch on your t-shirt, Kenneth. Is that one of your companies or something like that?
Yes, yes, it's one of my companies. I run a company in Houston called Torch. It's a ride share app. It's an app just like Uber. We compete with Uber. The main difference is that Uber pays drivers only about 50% of every ride. We pay drivers 100%. We think that drivers, they're the backbone of the ride share economy and they should make a lot more money. And now with self-driving cars, going everywhere, we are going to pivot into that as well in some markets, Dallas, Atlanta, and Miami. Our plan is to get a few self-driving cars as well and do that. Yeah, it's a tech company. Oh yeah.
It
that's
meant
great.
that.
Good
And I
job. That's
just
nice. That's good,
I
Kenneth. I
just
like
you
that.
never well all of you guys can attest. We did not talk about this before. I just saw it and it
Oh
clicked
yeah,
my
yeah,
mind.
yeah, yeah.
I'm like,
Mhm.
that must be one of
Thank
his
you, thank you,
companies.
thank you, thank you,
Yeah.
thank you.
So we are here today to actually I'll just put up this here right here because we are here to talk mostly about the qualifiers, FIFA 2026 qualifiers. The image you're seeing here is the best second place teams. Okay. And there has been some talk. I know there's some talk out there where people are saying that this table we see Gabon, Madagascar, DR Congo, Burkina Faso, Cameroon, Uganda, Namibia, South Africa, Niger in that order. And the ones highlighted in green are those who will qualify for the playoffs. Okay. Cameroon now is looking from outside. When you guys see this image, Ajab, what do you think about? Because when I look at a team like Uganda or a country like Uganda, I see that after 9, they have won six games. They did not draw any the last 2, sitting at 18 points, just like Cameroon. I mean, have these countries breached the gap, in African football? I mean, what's your opinion, Ajab?
First, I want to say that it tells me the first thing, the fear factor. We don't have that fear factor in football anymore. Like teams coming to approach other teams, know, okay, we have what it takes to meet up with these teams, and that's like you said, bridging a gap. It's something which a lot of teams decided to take football. I won't say personally, invest in football and say, okay, let's get ourselves a 15-year project. In 15 years, even if we don't win the AFCON, even if we don't make it to the World Cup, at least Africa is going to know that there's been an improvement or there's been an emergence of a new economy in terms of football. That's what most of these countries have been doing. If you look at the list again, if you want to talk about powerhouse in football, about those 4 teams at the top, I don't think any one of us will ever think of Gabon being at the top there. We have Madagascar there, we have DR Congo, we have Burkina Faso. And then the only powerhouse or powerhouses there are Cameroon and South Africa. And they're not even in the top 4. So I just think teams have decided to take it personal and invest in football from the grassroots, not surface. They approach the root cause of everything when they want to try to solve a problem. And that's what most of these countries have been doing. So I'm just looking at it from a grassroots and root cause perspective, and that the absence of the fear factor anymore. Teams are approaching top teams without any fear factor. And that's why they're emerging successful and victorious in what they've been doing so far.
Great point.
Okay, thank you, Ajab, for that. Kenneth, Ajab says the fear factor is gone, right? And
Yeah.
I do actually believe that the fear factor is gone. But you look at this, right? And talking about Cameroon, there has been issues going on, like in the back end. We're talking about administrative. It's the same thing for South Africa, because South Africa just got they lost actually 3 points,
Yeah,
because of bad administration. I mean, what do you, in your opinion, why does Cameroon lack consistency, or why is Cameroon year after year trying to go to the World Cup through the playoffs instead of qualifying directly? What's the main cause?
I think that our players are performing very poorly. I think that it's easy to blame administrative issues in Africa. That's a boogeyman that we cannot avoid. If you look at every African country, you'll notice that once you follow their local press, you hear about administrative issues all over the continent, even the big boys up north. But the thing with those big boys is that their club structure is so powerful that it can overcome those challenges because they play the same style of football. A lot of those players play together in the youth teams, and so even when they go to Europe, they know what their local style is. But the thing with Cameroon is that I think we have guys who have a name, but they are underperforming. I think that our players are not hitting the top marks. I think that our guys are taking the national team. Maybe it's the pressure that's getting to them, but I feel like they're taking it a little bit lighter than they do club football. I don't see guys really dying for the shirt. And I think that by and large, if we exclude the noise, the administrative noise, the coaching changes, the government interference, I think that players are to blame. Our guys have a name, they have a history, but they are not playing up to that history. And we've seen that happen. Brazil 2010, when Dunga was the coach in Brazil. That was a subpar performance in South Africa. Highly subpar. They showed up. Even 2006, if you think about 2006, the way Brazil came into that World Cup with Ronaldinho, with Ronaldo, with Adriano, with Kaká, they were expected to hit a certain level. They underperformed. The players on the field underperformed, and I think that that's what's happening to Cameroon. Our guy, there are 11 players on the field are not performing to standard, and I think that is something that has to do with the players' own pride, their own passion for the national team, and maybe even pressure that is being heaped on them, and they're just not used to it.
Okay, thank you for that, Kenneth. Capello, Kenneth
Yes.
is saying that the guys on the field are not actually performing. I mean, what do you make of the stats that Cameroon has drawn 3 games, away, but you see that they have performed actually at home very well, but they've drawn against even teams like Eswatini. I mean, for me, in my opinion, because when I look at the details, I saw that Cameroon on one occasion arrived to play a game in South Africa 24 hours before. Do you think that this is not an administrative problem as well, or is just the players, as Kenneth actually says?
Well, the administrative setup is part of the game, of course, but I think as an extension to what Kenneth said, I will agree with him. You can underperform against Swaziland, and you start giving excuses about administrative issues. We have to look at the players, And again, Ajab made a point about the disappearance of the fear factor. And that's right. Some of these countries being buoyed by, what is going on. Remember, FIFA has invested tremendously in Africa with football, and some of these countries they're trying to take advantage of what is going on, and the sports available to African countries for some of these tournaments. There are more opportunities. So anyway, so. I think to me the main issue is that tactical setup. I don't know. I don't understand the philosophy we have adopted, and some of these players we just we focus on where they play. We're excited about the Premier League and so on. But when it's time to put on green, yellow, the passion should be on display. And so I mean. Administratively, I don't. As I said at the beginning, it's not something that I want to focus on. I think we have to look at the coach and the players. They simply they haven't performed. They haven't performed. They haven't performed.
Well, I like to agree with you guys because of course the players, in my opinion, and the coach should carry it about, let's say, 70%. But in the case that a team, you don't put the players in the right position in order to win, right? Let's just take a case of South Africa. The players are not in charge of who you feel. You feel an ineligible player, and then you get deducted 3 points. That's clearly administrative. Let's take another example. Cameroon. You go to South Africa 24 hours in order to play a football game. The players are tired. You have old players like Abubakar in that squad. So can we actually put this on the players? However, let's go ahead and check. I want to talk about because since we've been talking, not this one. Let me see. Okay, this one, right? Because we're talking about the qualifiers. Okay, the structure of the qualifiers: 9 groups, nine groups, right? 6 teams in each group. I know. Is it Eritrea actually
Yeah,
pulled out of
Eritrea, they
the?
dropped
they pulled out.
yeah,
Yeah. Okay, they pulled out of the competition, right? So it's basically 9 groups, 6 teams in each group. Home and away is round robin. Group winners, 9 group winners actually qualify directly. So Africa is actually having more like teams, right? We know that there's an
Exactly.
expansion
And we
where
like that.
World Cup has been expanded, so there are more people going, and that's why when you look at Cameroon, you're like, oh wow. So even after they say 9 people are going, and you cannot even qualify, but then there's also like the 4 best runners up do a CAF playoff. Winners enter an intercontinental playoff. I think that intercontinental playoff is it with Asia or something like that, if I'm not mistaken?
Yeah, it's not it's a bumpy route. I don't know.
It's quite a complicated route, eh?
Yeah, very bumpy. I don't know how it's going to end up, but it's not. It's a little complicated.
Yes,
Okay, yeah.
it's
And,
not the
and
best.
so, I
best
mean,
part
if the
anything you want
African
to say.
teams win it out, Africa will actually have like 10 countries, right, in the World Cup. So that's something. But because Eritrea dropped out, there has been some confusion where some people are saying that points have been deducted, and now Cameroon is top. I think they're saying now Cameroon is top between the top 4. I think second, if you look at the table that some people are actually showing, right? But
What sorry to interrupt. What people are saying is that based on previous qualification and all that, the bottom team on every group,
mm-hmm.
teams that beat teams that played against the bottom team, you're going to be deducted points, the amount of points you amassed on them. So if Cape Verde did beat Eswatini home and away, they'll be deducted 6 points. But since Cameroon tied with Eswatini and then won Eswatini at home, they'll be deducted 4 points. So Cameroon and Cape Verde are going to be on the same points, or maybe 2 points different or something like that. So it's going to help Cameroon maybe if on the last day, or maybe end up being in the best 4 second place team. So some funny.
I don't even understand where that is coming from. It doesn't make
yeah,
so
and I
much sense to me.
saw even like a letter as if it was coming from a CAF, and I saw an article on L'Equipe. But in this day and age of social media, you have to be careful of what you read, what you share. So that's why I went. If I can share my screen just for a moment, I went to FIFA, right? To the FIFA.
Yeah.
Let me share my screen. I went to the FIFA website, and this is what I could see, right? Of course, they say Eritrea withdrew.
No. You have something different. You're talking about Soccernomics. You're talking about your screen is showing us why Morocco is ahead of Cameroon.
Oh, hold on.
Yeah.
I thought I was showing. Just 1 minute. Yeah, this. So let me try and share again. Let me share my screen. Share screen, and let me know if you see my screen. Hold on.
Yeah.
Chrome.
Right now we see your screen
screen.
that is showing us the best second place teams, the classification.
Okay. I see what you mean. Let me see. Where's that FIFA? This is complicated. Anyway, let me just try to read what I'm seeing right here. Right,
Okay.
it talks about. So it talks about Eritrea basically not playing any games, and it says all Eritrean games have been unscheduled, but it doesn't say that points will actually be reduced, as you just explained. So to be on the safe side, we will stick on the fact that Cameroon still has a last game to play, and if let me see, I mean, if you look at the stakes, right? If Madagascar, let's just try to do math because this is where they say everybody brings out their calculator, right? So Madagascar has, I think Madagascar, there's a game that actually is very interesting to me. Either is that Madagascar game they play Mali on the last day of play. Okay. So if they draw or they lose and Cameroon wins, Cameroon gets in. And
Yeah.
that's the same thing for Burkina Faso. And even the Congo, if Congo loses, right, and Cameroon wins. But the way I saw Congo play, man, Congo is actually a good team. Have any of you guys
Yes.
actually watched Congo?
Yes, even the last AFCON, they played.
Yeah, they played
some
their
good
place.
stuff.
I watched the game they played Senegal, even though Senegal came from behind to beat them 3-2. They actually played good football.
Yeah, Congo played good football. If we make it, it's gonna be because of Madagascar and maybe Burkina Faso, but I don't think Congo is gonna take care of business.
And Congo is actually coached by a former Cotton Sport coach. Eh?
Who's that?
Yeah, the French guy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, the French guy. Yeah. I do remember that. But now, okay, let's move a little bit, right? Let's talk about because there's a country that actually fascinates me when we talk about Soccernomics. I'm talking about Morocco, right? Why is Morocco? I mean, the question is, I'll ask you guys, is that why is Morocco ahead of Cameroon when we talk about football? Of course, when I bring out these topics, because some of us, we are just fanatics. I've realized Cameroonians are fanatics, right? When you talk about football, you say Morocco is ahead of Cameroon football. They ask you how many African Cup of Nations.
Exactly. That's exact. That's exact. That's true.
But anyway, that's a valid point, though.
I mean,
it's a valid point, but it should not be the subject of that conversation. Yeah.
Well, that's true.
Mm-hmm.
Well, because it takes away what actually the purpose of the discussion.
Yeah.
Because
exactly
the comparison is based to expose the problems that we're facing.
Yeah, because all things being equal, right? If we have a good league, we have good facilities, our players are actually playing like professionally, like back home, and living off their football. That's all things being equal. Then we can say, okay, yeah, let's compare. But now, my question to you guys is that why? Because I read this book, right, called Soccernomics, and it talks about 3 key factors for a successful football nation. And I'm not saying that you have to be the richest, but we need like progression when it comes to wealth. We can talk about the stadiums Cameroon just built and all that. But in you guys' opinion, why is Cameroon lagging behind countries like Morocco when it comes to a healthy football culture?
I think Cameroon.
Okay, do you want to go with that, Kenneth?
Yeah, let me take a stab at this. Because this is one of my favorite topics. To me, when you look at this summary that you have here, you talk of wealth, you talk of talent, you talk of culture. I think the biggest problem with Cameroon is, and this is based on my travels across Africa, is a total lack of infrastructural development. Cameroon has failed in terms of building infrastructures, from roads to grassroots football pitches, to professional league pitches, even to private investors, to government-owned stadiums. Cameroon has done a very terrible job at that. And so the country itself is not very connected. Football needs connections. Football is almost like a social media platform where you cannot isolate football, because what is football is the conglomeration of talent towards one goal. That's sports. That's what you're doing. This is even if you're doing athletics, you need to bring people together so they can compete and improve. What we have failed to do is bring talent together, and that is because of a lack of infrastructural development. That's number one. Number two, that lack of infrastructural development has turned so many Cameroonians off their country. We're talking about doctors, pharmacists, investors, business people. When they leave the country, they do not view the country as a place in which they should be going back to do anything meaningful. What does that have to do with football? When you leave and your son is born in France or in England, well, where do you think the boy is going to play? He's going to play where he is. He's going to hope to play in this next country because their parents remember that back home, there's nothing there. And now you come now to the third layer, federation and vision. Well, that third layer should have been our backstop. That third layer should have been the thing where we say, well, we know we have failed in terms of infrastructure. We know we have failed in terms of keeping in touch with our diaspora, but we are taking care of the football economy in Cameroon. And so you can trust us. You may not trust Cameroon as a country. You may not trust our economy, but you can trust the football economy. Where do we see that? Countries like Mali, Senegal. I spent time in Senegal. I finished high school in Senegal. At the time, Senegal viewed Cameroon almost as the way Cameroon views Brazil. They couldn't believe they were sharing a pitch with us. They were scared of our boys. But they lagged behind us. They didn't have the infrastructure. They didn't have the diaspora yet. But guess what they had? Organized federation and a vision. So the first two things can fail, but if you have number three, you can still make it. That's why you have outsiders come out of nowhere and perform well. That's why you have surprise packages at World Cups and African Nations Cup and Euros. They can come out of nowhere and surprise you. It's because of that organized federation and the vision. We lack all three. And I think that is a huge problem when it comes to bringing talent together. Because you may have talent across the country, but if you don't have infrastructure, you cannot bring them together.
That's actually a great point that you do make. Talent, bringing talent together. If you don't have the right infrastructure, because I talked about this, I think 4 or 5 years ago when we organized African Cup of Nations, and we're building these elephants, in specific areas instead of building small stadiums, around the regions where kids can actually play, or just building grass pitches, and also doing building roads. And when I talk about roads and hospitals, some people are like, what are roads and hospitals got to do with soccer? If players get injured, they have to be treated. If players are traveling to go play a game, you expect them to go there in the less amount of time and actually still fit to play. I mean, Awasin, it's now on you. I mean, what do you make of the situation that Cameroon actually finds itself? We see that back, let's say in the 80s when we had a good league, Canon Tonnerre Union. We saw the players like Mila, Abega, a lot of those players came from, but we have failed, to progress because football has evolved. But it seems as if Cameroon has just remained in one place. I mean, what's your take?
Yes, and I think I'm in support of what Kenneth presented. The reality is you can't lie forever, because the issue with Cameroon is we have been avoiding these issues, and when we perform well or win a tournament, it appears as if we forget everything. But these things are catching up with us at the moment. As well, football is part of the society. Football doesn't exist in a vacuum, and there's a strong correlation between, if you have a stable society and infrastructurally and economically, and that those factors will. I mean, the way football is being perceived, or the success of football in a country, we've done a horrible job when it comes to infrastructural development. You know the issues. I don't know. Well, I don't want to touch more on this, but we all know when those top positions when the money comes in for those projects to be carried out. We don't know what goes behind the scenes. Again, I grew up in Kumba, and you as you say, this economic development in a country or in every society helps with football development. Let me give an example with Kumba. I grew up in the days of Kamak, PWD. Things were good in Kumba, and then everything crashed around in the 90s. So, and football since then has been dead in Kumba. You see, when things crash economically, infrastructurally, when there's no base, there's no platform to build. And as Kenneth made a point about talent, well, you can have all the talent in the world, but if things are not organized properly, if you don't have a structure, if you don't have a philosophy, if you don't have the right path to follow, then, well, things will crumble. So, and this is where, if you compare to societies like those countries in the north, they have professional leagues. These players, they are brought up in a system that they understand perfectly. Is that cohesive nature of the way they operate, But in Cameroon, it's like everybody knows a lot. Everyone wants to teach the other person. There's no, I mean, there's no path for everyone to follow. And as I said, you can't escape the reality forever. Our league, it's horrible. The domestic league, much has to be done in terms of development. And these guys at the north, as Kenneth said earlier, they start playing together. They understand the culture. They understand all what the country represents. But in Cameroon, I think we lack that. It's horrible. It's horrible at the moment. So I don't know if Ajab, if you have something to add before we.
Yeah, exactly. Ajab.
There's something Kenneth said that I don't know if I'll use the word spot on. Kenneth said you could fail at the first two, but if you have an organized and visionary federation, you will make it. 90% of Cameroonians will not agree with that, but that's a super valid point. Because we use our federation or our ministry, the failures, to say, country don't respond, how on football worker. You can use the football to tell people outside that there's still hope in this country. You understand? If you give me 2 hours to talk, I don't think it will be enough for me to talk on this too long. Yeah, because of the passion I have for football in Cameroon. I started watching football at the age of 7. My dad used to take me to go watch Kamak Bamenda, Pidol Bamenda when I was 7 years old. And since then, I haven't stopped. When I go visit Cameroon, I try to make sure that I go to visit Cameroon when the league is on. So I watch a few games. It's a complete opposite. Football in Cameroon now is, you see top players in Cameroon at the age of 20, 22 leave Cameroon to come overseas to hustle. They stop football, they want to hustle because they know Amasa, no put me chop for table. You understand? That's what's happening to Cameroon football. The absence of the professionality of the league, it's a very serious thing. It's a very serious thing that's really, it's like a cancer on Cameroon football. And like Awason said, you can't lie throughout your life. At some point, it's gonna catch up on you.
Yes. Let me add something. And I jump as you and this is also important. And think there's a connection, with what you posited with what Kenneth said earlier. Well, in those in other countries like in Egypt, Morocco, and so on, some of those players, they operate at the professional level. Some of them make a living from playing football.
Mm-hmm.
But the pittance that some of these players in Cameroon receive cannot sustain their living. So the focus is all about going abroad. So I don't know. They don't even. It's someone. Even if you start, it's not like before. Ajab, you know the story. So some of those great players, when they were playing PWD, I mean, back then was better. You know, the focus was there. But now I don't know, because of the state of the country, the state of the economy, in fact, the state of the society. You know, these players, they are not motivated. Or what they think about is going to Europe because they can't make a living.
Players. I've seen players who turn down a league game to play interquarters because the interquarters will pay them more money than a league game in Cameroon.
Wow.
Yes.
Late
Wow.
Bakuru was doing that in Kumbada.
It happens.
Yeah.
I'll go back. Sorry, let me just add just one point. 2009, Salih Edgar, he used to play for the national team. Was Cameroon's best player at the time in the Cameroon League. He left Cotonsport of Garoua and he signed for Monaco in France. At that time, Monaco was playing second-tier football. Cameroonians were so happy. Frank Happy, there's a stakeholder in Cameroon football called Frank Happy. He's been around Cameroon football for a very long time. He was interviewed and he said, you guys should be ashamed instead of being happy. If the best player of a powerhouse in football, Cameroon, is leaving your best team in Cameroon to go play second-tier football in France, then it means there's a problem with your league. And if we don't stop this, the effect, it's going to be unending.
France is even better. France is even better.
I think
you can understand the key factor. Some of them travel to other crazy European countries.
Yeah, I think Abubakar was the last Cameroonian, but he needed time to integrate, right? I think he was the last Cameroonian to leave the Cameroonian league, Cotonsport, and actually moved to France. But it took him time. I think maybe he went to Laval or something like that.
Yeah.
Lorient, is it Lorient?
Valenciennes.
Valenciennes. Okay, he went to Valenciennes. But the last player that I remember that left Cameroon and started playing in France was Francois Omambik, and that's about 25 years ago. You know, so that just tells you that our league is not actually producing, and we know why, because we don't have that foundation. If you see countries like, a lot of countries, African countries, are not doing it now. They actually have to spend some time, let's say in Europe. They call the food we see like the Balibas, Avom, Etai Young. These guys actually don't move directly, right? Because they're coming at a very tender age. And anything can happen to a footballer at age, let's say 17 and 22. If you don't have the right mindset, you can go from a very like prosperous, what do we call like a prospect, and your career can just plummet, because there's also that psychological part of it, right? But let's not talk a lot about.
Sorry to interrupt. I'm not even going to use Balibas and the Avoms and Nagidas. Those people are coming from academies, so that's different. We will talk like you used Omambik and Abubakar. Those actually came from the league. We don't have those players who leave Cameroon league. Okay, I will just go back again. The last Ballon d'Or Cameroon 2024 was Chindo John Bosco. He just left Cotonsport for second-tier football in United Arab Emirates. That's someone who has represented Cameroon in the junior level, on the 23 level, and the intermediary level as the captain. And he leaves Cameroon as your best player in your league, and he goes for second-tier football. I'm not blaming him as a person. I'm just looking at it. Previously, before him, we had Mahop. Mahop is somewhere around Cameroon playing interquarter from Boya to Limbe to Kumba to Yaoundé to Douala. That was Ballon d'Or 2023. Ballon d'Or 2022 was the other guy from Cotonsport who left and went to Orlando Pirates, and he wasn't successful. Now he plays, I think, third tier football in the USA. Those are the best players.
He plays in Charlotte. He plays in Charlotte.
Those are the best players of our league. Best. I'm not talking about players, but the best players.
Ballon d'Or winner.
Yeah, Ballon d'Or winners of our league. You see where they're heading to. Yeah, so there's a problem. And it's not just the federation problem. Even we, the fans, club owners, stakeholders, sponsors, it's a general problem. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, let's go ahead and talk a little bit about the game, right? Cameroon just played Mauritius. What I noticed in that game is that Cameroon, the coach actually made 6 changes from the game against Cape Verde. We know that the likes of Boyomo, they were not even called. Wu was not even called. Yeah, but then let me read you guys, right? Let me read the lineup of Cameroon. And any of you guys can pick whatever player you want to critique or whatever lineup, you know, you want to critique. I'm talking about just the lineup. Do you guys think Tolo should have played central together with Ngado? Nagida played on the left-hand side, Chichwa right-hand side, Ngamalu, okay, Baleba, Avom, Nkulu, and Ngamalu midfield, depending on what lineup, I mean, what tactical lineup you're actually looking at. Then we had Etaye Young and Chupo Moting, with Chupo Moting actually playing behind Etaye Young. Critique that lineup. Ajab, let's start with you.
When I saw the lineup, Tolo Nuho as a center back, that was already a disaster. We have center backs all over the world, even if they are not that effective. There's no need calling people like Castelletto and then you use Tolo Nuho as a center back, or calling Bokele and then you use Tolo Nuho as a center back. This was an opportunity for some of the younger guys. Yes, I know I'm not a fan of those people. I'm not one of those fans who say we have to call players of the local league to promote the league. No. Call a player from the local league if you know he's going to be useful. He can contribute to the game. Not just call it because you want people to know. Because some people say, no, call the promote the league. No. We have a young guy by the name of Hamza. He plays for Colombe Sportif, and he's been very, very consistent in Cameroon football for the last 3 seasons. Arguably the best player or best defender in Cameroon League. If Wo and Boyomo are being suspended, this would have been an opportunity to call him. Even if you're not going to use him, he should have that camaraderie with the other senior guys, because he's played for the U20, he's played for U23, he's played for the intermediate. That's a way for him to get connected to some of the big boys, you know. And then maybe you can give him a chance later. And then you bring in Tolo Nuho as a left back and use him as a center back. The lineup, if you're playing against Mauritius and you lost against Cape Verde, all you need to do is win. Either you win the game 4-0 or you lose the game 1-0. There's no tie in the game, such as Mauritius. Damalo is not someone you can use in an attacking game. Damalo is the kind of attacking players with what the Frenchman say 0.4 is work rate. If you're an attacking player and your 0.4 is work rate, you have an issue. Your 0.4 should be good at attacking. You understand? Yes. Yeah, no, it's good. It's good when you have a work rate, right? But it should not be the best part of your game as an attacking-minded player.
And I don't want to cut you short there, right? I'll give you some time to continue, because you see that is it Madagascar? Madagascar is ahead of just goal difference, one goal different. So we need to be putting players. That was a game where Cameroon should have gone with maybe their strongest team. I know they are looking at the game against Angola, score many goals, you know, in order to get into the top 4. Continue, Ajab.
Yeah, someone is going to say you have to rest players like Bemo and this because they could get injured. Even if you put them in later, they can still get injured. There's no soccer rule saying that only players that start the games are going to get injured. Even if they come in at the 80th minute, they could still get injured. So I don't buy that idea of if they start, they may get injured, or that those guys play football for a living. So you're not going to tell me playing 60 minutes against Mauritius is going to get tired legs against for Angola, playing against Angola 3 or 4 days later. So I had an issue with Chachwa, and I have an issue. The issue with the game, Carl Eta didn't have a good debut for Cameroon. It wasn't a good game. The reason being that Carl Eta is a goal poacher. He's an in-box striker. He's not the kind of striker that will play the ball. And when you have an in-box striker, it means you need to have a good passer of the ball. We don't have a good passer of the ball in the midfield. So you need your wing backs, your right back and your left back to be good at crosses. And Chachwa is a disaster in that. Nagida too wasn't good in that. So Carl Eta Eyong will starve if Cameroon keeps on playing the way they played. So that's the reason why Carl didn't have a good game. His fighting spirit, his pressing was top notch, but his touches, he didn't get enough supply because we don't have a passer of the ball. And our wing back, if you watch any team in football today, when they don't have a good passer of the ball in the midfield, they rely on the wingers or their wing backs for crosses. That's why Liverpool flourished under Klopp, because they were playing with 3 defensive midfielders and Robertson and Trent were doing the work. If you look even at Brazil, it happened too back in the days. It happened with so many teams where you don't have a number 10. And most teams now in football, they don't use a number 10 when you play in the 4-3-3. Very few teams use a number 10. So they rely on the crosses from the wings. We did not, Carl didn't get that. So he started him and he didn't have a good first game. At Avon at the first 20-30 minutes of the game, most 90% of his passes were back passes. But he grew up and he adjusted as the game evolved. And then, like I mentioned at the beginning, a game like that, man, that's a game. Bring in Namaso needs to start games. He needs to start games. We at the start when he got his first few called ups, the problem was this guy is not playing for Porto. He's a bencher at Porto. Now he plays day in, day out for Oxlade, and he's playing good. Give him the chance to play. Play a 4-4-2 system. Put those strikers. Put four attackers, 2 midfielders. Why are you scared of Mauritius? You're playing against Mauritius and you're trying to be pragmatic or trying to be cautious. All in out. Either you win 4-0 or you lose the game 1-0 and you go home. So that's all I have to say about the game. The guy was so cautious with the setup of the game. And Tolonuo starting the game as a center back was a disaster. Not that even if he was the best player on the pitch, but just seeing him on the lineup, there's a problem when you have center backs on the bench.
Okay, so Kenneth, let's go with you. What do you think about that lineup and how Cameroon actually performed?
I think that our players didn't do a very good job. I felt that our players did not play up to their level even in that game. As Ajab has said 2 or 3 times here, he knows. You have to listen between the lines, instead of reading between the lines. Sometimes when you hear things like work rate, when you hear things like we like a number 10, when you hear things like our number 9 is starved, those are all things that come back down to players. Because there comes a point in football when a stronger team is sent out and is told to go and do a job. I'll give you examples. Argentina, Nigeria in 2018, where Argentina needed to win to qualify for the next round of the World Cup. There was nothing to do and nothing to say. There was no speech could have made Argentina better or worse. They told those guys to go out there and beat Nigeria. It's as simple as that. Find a way. Go beat Nigeria. When you look at Germany in 2014, Germany, when they made it out of that group and went on to win that World Cup, they had a couple of 1-0s. And it was tricky. It was in the balance. Well, the task is simple. Go out and win a game. Spain against Switzerland in 2010. Go out and win a game. That's the task that we had for this game. And that's the task that we had for our next game. But the reality, and this is where I think we all agree, is that at this point, our best team doesn't even matter. It doesn't matter what our best team is, because not only are we playing to win these 2 games, we have to then go to the playoffs, win those games, and then go face winners of other, number 2s from other confederations, potentially a South American team, an Oceanic team, and an Asian team. And we have to win those games. That makes me very nervous. Why? We have performed poorly away from home this entire past 2 years. So what if we have to go play a game in Australia? What if we have to go play a game in Ecuador? Who knows where we're going to land? How can you trust these guys to go and win a game 2,000 miles from Yaoundé? My money is not on the team, to be honest with you guys. And so to answer your question, True Lion, where is the problem? I think the problem comes down again to players. Players. If you listen to Steven Gerrard this week, he said it. He said their golden generation, when they were not on the field, they would go to their hotel rooms, close their doors, Manchester, Liverpool, Chelsea. That's it. This is Gerrard telling you he couldn't even interact with Rio Ferdinand. He was saying on the podcast that Ferdinand and Carragher were not talking. You cannot blame Sven Goran Eriksson for that. You cannot blame the English setup for that. The Spanish had the same problem back in the day when Barcelona and Real Madrid players could not even look at each other face to face on the national team.
Yeah. Aragonés brought an end to that. That's true. Yeah.
Thank you very much. So at the end of the day, we have to look at those 11 guys on the field and say to ourselves, are you better than the opponent? When you wake up in the morning as a Cameroonian football player, do you think that this team across from you should make you scared? The answer is no. And excuse the term, but some of these nations are Mickey Mouse football nations. We should not be panicking. We should be going in there, like Ajab said, and say, we're winning 4-0. We're winning 4-0. And that's why I like that 2002 team a lot. The Cameroonian team in 2002. And especially even the 2000 team, when we played against Nigeria in the finals of the Nations Cup. When you listen to Rigobert's song and all those guys, even Boma made a comment. He said that Nations Cup in Ghana and Nigeria, when our French coach Pierre Lechamp came in and saw the playing surface, he was complaining. He was saying that how can the Ghanaians give us this kind of playing surfaces for training? Boma said at the end of the day, when we go to that game, no one cares about playing surface. Can you win a game of football? That's it. Forget about surfaces. Every nation has to deal with those things. Forget about players being injured. Like Ajab said, you cannot be thinking a player cannot play 40 minutes, 60 minutes, 80 minutes. This is a must-win game. And Libya was about to give us a handout. Let's not forget, Libya was doing us a solid against Cape Verde. And our guys are running around, lads. They're not feeding our striker. They cannot make simple crosses, things that you've learned since you started playing ball at 7 years old. After a certain point, we cannot blame federations, we cannot blame coaches. 11 guys are on the field. They are Cameroonian guys. They are not playing against Argentina and Brazil. And we all know that in sports. All of us in sport. The other day, the Giants played the Eagles. The Giants handed it to the Eagles. We were all surprised. Because at the end of the day, yes, at the end of the day, you expect certain things from certain teams. And yes, there are going to be upsets. Cameroon, Argentina. What do we think that the Argentinians were saying after the first game in the World Cup in 1990? Do you think they were talking about organizations and the Italian fans not liking Diego Maradona? No. Our guys did not perform. Our guys did not perform. That's as simple as that. Cameroon brought Argentina down to their level and then beat them. And so our boys are letting these guys do the same thing to us. And then when we get into this analysis, because our players know very well that we're going to blame organization, they know we're going to blame infrastructure, we're going to blame the national team setup, we're going to blame the coach. Our players know that, but I think, to be honest, guys, we have shielded these guys so much. Go back. I take your mind back to the 2014 World Cup when Alexander gave that red card against Croatia. Let's be honest here.
Mandzukic.
Let's be honest here. What are you doing? You can say what you want. You are in Brazil, the home of football. You're playing a once-in-a-generation World Cup in Brazil. Come on, man. What are you talking about?
Okay, thank you for that emotional analysis, Kenneth. Let's go with you.
What else can I say? I think the big one will be what I've just talked about, the central defense. I know in a situation like this, and Ajab, what you said earlier about rewarding, I think I support the theory that some of those who perform well, we are talking about developing our local leagues and so on. Maybe the word reward, I don't know the particular, I don't know, it could be misconstrued in this context. But if somebody plays well locally, in a game like this, and if tactical, if someone is absent, then the person should be called up to play.
Yeah. So sorry, Zago, let me interrupt you. No, rewarding is correct, but they are saying promote. So call this guy. Even if you don't use him, you're promoting your league. So I said, no, I'm not a fan of that. I want a local league player to be called up because he deserves. If he gets the chance to play, he's going to prove that he's good. Not just call him to sit and what's his name? The guy was doing this. What's his name? Nathan Douala.
The young man.
Nathan Douala, yeah. Nathan Douala, yeah, not that. Go, yeah, get a call up because you can prove you're good enough, So that's why I give the example of the young guy.
But to add to that, when you're going to the tournament, there was an argument with this Nathan Douala. He was selected for the AFCON.
Mm-hmm.
obviously you have to play well. You have to earn your spot. But to me, it's another opportunity. Remember, let's stretch to even 94 with Arrow 9. You remember, Zagallo explained to the world that Ronaldo actually was selected to go to that World Cup, not even to play, but to experience the environment.
Yeah.
Because the country that was building the future for him. You know, at 17, he was just going there, and they call him that at that time the reincarnation of Pele. It was just there to experience, to gain that experience, to understand how a tournament works, to be around, understand, the pressure and everything. So why not? Why not? If somebody does well at the local level again, but going to the talking about the setup, I think the game where this was a must-win game, and as I just said, the must-win game, there's a different mentality which you approach a game. There's nothing to be scared about, because at the end of the day, you have nothing to lose. But I think we're quite slow in our build up at times, and Ajab, you made a point about tactically, because we that creativity in midfield, we don't have a typical Menedije like what we call local languages, right?
Yeah.
And in the absence of that, the responsibility should be shared across the team. Because from fullbacks and even the attackers. And when we made another point regarding work rate, I don't think in the modern context, I don't think it's to discredit an attacker if you say that if you talk about his work rate, because the pressing is putting pressure on opponents is a crucial aspect of the game at the moment. I don't know if you agree with me with that. So
no, I agree with you. No, I'm not. What I talked about is work. I say you can't have an attacking-minded player that the best part of his football is the work rate and not his attacking aspect. That's what I mean. I'm not saying you shouldn't have a work rate. No, if you don't have work rate in today's football, you won't cope. I'm saying you have a player, but the best part of his football is his work rate. No, the work rate should be a compliment. It shouldn't be the core of your game. That's what I mean.
I'll give an example so we can all understand this. Let's take Dirk Kuyt from Liverpool under Rafa Benitez. He was an aggressive runner, hustler, but when it came down to crunch moments, he couldn't score goals. And when your whole game is around hustling the ball and plugging gaps and tracking back, I'm sorry, you're not a serious striker. That's why when Fernando Torres came to that team, he blew the top off. He blew the top off in Liverpool, scored goals, and then Suarez and the rest, they picked it up. But if you remember that Benitez years, you had Dirk Kuyt, very, very cagey guys. They run around. You see the goal tally at the end of the season, 9 goals. 11 goals. And I agree with Ajab. You're right. Your striker cannot be someone that when we talk of him, we talk of work rate. We need to be talking of double-digit goals and assists.
Yeah, and that's Abubakar, right?
Abubakar. Well, okay, now, that's a good point. That's a good point, because Abu, the work rate aspect of it is out of the picture. It's all about. But I think overall, the conclusively, it's we're not ferocious enough. Knowing that we had to score, the importance of goals. We had to go out to playing against Mauritius. What?
That's the point I'm trying to make.
Okay, let me actually let me paint this picture, right? Let me make this a little bit colorful. Mark Brace, right? It's a guy that I think when he was winning, the games and all that, I've actually supported him at some point. There are some home games that we have had. Our team has performed actually good, some attractive football. However, I think where he has struggled is like actually away games. And I partly, although Kenneth says he's on the player, I partly blame back office administration, and it could be the minister, it could be federation, like poor management. You understand? We cannot go to games 24 hours before a game and expect our teams to perform at a very, very good level. However, this is where I criticize Mark Brace. You see the game against Cape Verde, right? It seems as if he's not calculating, because Cape Verde scored us about, I think, about 15 minutes to the end of that game.
No, they
Was
scored
it?
10 minutes into the second half. We had about 40 minutes.
Oh, no,
minutes.
Yeah, you're right. But that game was a difficult game, right? So, in my opinion, when you realize that the game is a difficult game, we are not being creative enough. You have to make sure that tactically your defense is disciplined. Because if you look at the goal that was scored against Cameroon, somehow the defense was not disciplined. We had our right and left backs going too high, because Chechwa, let me give you guys these stats. You know Chechwa? He was the fastest player in a Calcio last year.
Verona.
The fastest. I'm talking about the fastest. So if Chechwa was well positioned, I bet you guys Cape Verde doesn't score us. Okay? Cape Verde doesn't score us. So that's that indiscipline that I actually crave and talk about.
Yeah.
Now, fast forward. Let's talk about this game. In my opinion, Tolo as well shouldn't have played at center back. There's a reason why he was moved, because originally, right, he's a central defender originally. But there's a reason why maybe coaches, maybe the MLS and or maybe his previous teams, moved him to maybe a left back. There was an incident 14 minutes, 16 minutes into the game, where he basically took the ball and ran across his.
My goodness. Yeah.
You don't do that. Don't do that when you're a central. You don't carry the ball and run away. And then when you saw the approach of Cameroon team, there were three players: Tolo, Ngadu, Baleba. I think the coach instructed them tactically. Those are the guys who were trying most of the long balls. Cameroon had about 15 to 17 long balls. Fortunately for us, we had two of them that actually counted. That's how the goals came. When Basungok, quote unquote Basungok, this is Basungok 8 years ago, 2017, that everybody says Basungok is old, he should not be playing. But now, when you see even Abubakar, when you see these guys delivering, if you are the coach, what you gonna do? Are you gonna try a young when you don't really have enough time for these guys to gel? Because Kenneth made a point, right? He was comparing this team to 2000.
Chula, you're muted. You're good now. Yeah, you're good.
Yeah. Three quarters of that team went through a call de foot de Brasserie. So those are guys that they knew each other. They played together each other. Mark Brice made 6 changes going into this game. Those guys have never even played together. At least 6 of those guys, they have never even played together. So chemistry cannot come in instantly. So that's why at a certain point, we have to sacrifice if we want to build, if we want a long-lasting project. We have to say, let's sit down and get our acts together. But that means that we must not expect the team to win. We have to bring someone who is more like a developmental coach. But you see Ajab shaking his head. Cameroon is not ready for that.
What I'm saying is that, when I'm shaking my head saying that Cameroon is not ready for building building. They're not ready for building because you must make it to the World Cup. You must make it to at least the semifinals of the Nations Cup, even you're building or not. That's the mindset of the fans. Let me just divert a little bit. Exactly. I was one of those people who said, I don't want Song again to be the coach of the national team for Cameroon because I don't think he's qualified enough. People keep on using Cameroon, Brazil. He win Brazil. That's not my point. So my point was this. My point was I don't want Song, but I'm not saying Mark Brace is a good. My point was that if you're getting rid of Song, do not bring another person that at some point they're going to compare. Some people are going to be comparing his football know-how with Song. My point was this. If Cameroon is looking to rebuild, when you get rid of Song, bring in someone who's been around African football or someone who knows football, maybe like the Hervé Renard or some of those top coaches, right? Even the ones from Europe. Bring them as a head coach. Get 1 or 2 big names in Cameroon football coaching Not Tungu Pillars, because Tungu Pillars, those people have been coaching around Cameroon for 40 years. So we need new people. Maybe like Richard Towa or somebody, bring someone to assist that top man, right? Give him 2-3 years. After 3 years, this guy will say, okay, this is what we've learned from this top man. The top man can leave, and then we have a Cameroonian at that time who knows what he's doing. Song got the job as a Cameroon coach where he had failed as the coach of the Intermediate Lions. He had failed as a coach of the Under-23. So why was he being appointed? So that's where the point.
To that point, let me come in. Sorry.
Yeah.
Well, this is actually, I was in support of Song's appointment. So it's at least it's good for us to
I was in support of a Cameroonian to coach Cameroon. I'm not saying Cameroonians should not coach Cameroon, but Song as his profile, that's where I had a problem with. But Cameroonian to coach Cameroon, yeah, I do not have a problem with that.
Yes,
we need to look for someone who is qualified.
We're in 2025. We're not in 1965 here.
Okay.
Cameroon, Ivory Coast, Nigeria. No way. Foreigners should not be. Should not be on.
But our son, isn't it something we plan? Because in football, right, when you look at the history of football, we've seen Gus Hiddink go right up to Asia in order to coach different national teams. Did he not also coach Russia? We've seen Capello coach Russia. So we've seen different nationals, right, try to carry their own football culture to influence different teams. We've even seen Pep Guardiola. He's influenced the EPL, the way the EPL play. We saw Wenger influence the EPL, so you see different cultures, right?
Sorry, you're going too far. Today, 2025, Ancelotti, Italian, is the coach of Brazil national team. Today,
I didn't admire that.
Let me land, right? Let me land.
Yes.
Let me just finish. The problem is that I was one of the people who actually supported the appointment of Rigobert Song. But when I saw that he was not, first of all, the way I consume my football, I like a coach to be also able to come to the press and tell me his ideology, his mindset. I like all that stuff. When I saw that Song was not a man, for me, he looked like a puppet. Well, that's my opinion. I actually had to drift away from Song. But what I'm saying here is that, of course, we need Cameroonians as coaches. But guess what? We also need to see these Cameroonians coach and be successful in our leagues. So we should prepare a platform in the league where coaches can coach and compete with each other, so that if an appointment is made, we can all agree that, oh yeah, I like, or I don't like this coach for so and so reason. Like Ajab just said, show me Song's CV. Where is success there before he was hired? It was like Gray. He was hired because he was Samuel Eto'o's man. Okay. I had nothing to do with that. But hey, you have a job to do, just like Mark Brace. Cameroon doesn't qualify. We go African Nations Cup, we don't do anything. Come on, let's fire him. But
let me come in a bit.
Make a platform, our local league, where our coaches can coach and compete against each other.
That's correct. That's correct. I agree with that. But talking about the situation with Song, it now appears counterintuitive for someone trying like to support Song's appointment and so on. But this is a national team. At some point, where we can talk football or we like talk tactics and so on. But sometimes patriotism. Well, Kenneth, you made a point about when you are aware of the mission. At times, saying nothing means saying a lot. And there's something symbolic about Rigobert Song when we talk about the national team. And if you love the nation and it's time for you to put out green, red, yellow, and Song Bahana Rigobert is in front of you, you know the weight of what of the battle in front of you. That's enough motivation. So, and sometimes that could be enough for you to perform. On that basis, I admired his appointment. Well, did he display depth in his tactics? Not quite, but again, these players simply didn't perform. And when everything goes down here, the first person to be found guilty is the coach. Unfortunately.
Yeah, we're blaming
because
blame on the coaches a lot more than the players. That's true, but that's how football is.
Because for example, the Netherlands, with the Netherlands, let's go back. Let's go to Rijkaard. Right, Euro 2000.
Euro 2000, Italy.
So, what? How? Okay, he was appointed. So, what did he achieve between after leaving the scene in '95 after the Champions League triumph with Ajax from '95 to 2000? What did Rijkaard achieve as a coach for him to be appointed as the head coach of the Netherlands?
No, but Wasom, you're just talking about one situation, right?
It's an example. I'm just giving an example.
5 Netherlands coaches who have achieved something and they actually went there to coach, So that's just an outlier. Okay, that's an outlier. You cannot take an outlier in the Netherlands situation as a main situation. So, I mean, in my opinion, right, when you look at the current state of affairs of Cameroon, I'll ask you guys this question. Is it fair to say that Cameroon's football culture today revolves around a struggling national team and a few standout individuals rather than collective football project? Again, I say a collective football project. When I talk about collective football project, I'm talking about from grassroots to the leagues and to national team. Everyone working and looking into the same direction.
Of course, that's true. From all what we've been discussing,
that's true.
That's a summary of all what we've been discussing. Yes. We just count on certain. We get, because we have players playing at the EPL. We think they can just come and bail us out. As you said earlier, you can't lie forever. There should be a structure.
So let me ask. Let me ask Kenneth this question, right? Because I think so how do you think we can actually start resolving this issue? Because this issue cannot be resolved, let's say, in 2, 3, 4 years. It's gonna take maybe about a decade in order to.
I think we need to look at the French blueprint from Clairefontaine. Let's go back to '93 when France didn't make it to the World Cup in the United States. I think they had a loss or a draw against Bulgaria, and they didn't make it through. And they went back to the drawing board. They went back to the drawing board. They invested into their setup. I think that we need to replicate the Clairefontaine and St. George's Academy in England. We need to replicate that system. We need to have a sprawling complex in Yaoundé, Douala, Garoua, Marwa, anywhere. The best weather. Find the best place with the best weather in the country. Put a sprawling complex there, so that any player who plays from the under 14th to the under 21s in the Cameroon national team understands the structure, understands the system, understands the way you interact with the other players. Because one thing we're always going to have in Cameroonian football is that we'll have a team of guys who play well, but unfortunately, because football is so global now, the competition is rude. And so I want to bring us to a 3-tier system. You have local players. Ajab, you have talked about that. Guys who have won Ballon d'Ors in Cameroon. Where are they today? Normally, those guys should be the first base. These are local guys who either play in Cameroon or in Africa. Then you have base 2. These are guys who play in Europe, but they may play in some second division team or some lower first division team. Then you have base 1. These are guys like Mbomo. These are guys like Baleba. These are guys like, even Etai Young now. Guys who are playing in their teams. They are starting and their teams are aspiring to things or surprising us. But then there's going to be one player who's out of this world. I think that we need to account for those 4 groups. And I'll tell you why. If we have that one player who's out of this world, let's call him, maybe it becomes Bruno. I actually don't think we even have that guy today. First, that's the
generational talent.
You must have a generational talent. Right now, we don't have it. But let's just assume that we have it. When you have a structure that follows through from the age of 12, 13, what happens is that generational talent does not feel he's bigger than the team. And that's something that I will use to criticize Etofis, the player, is that when he was that player, he was not an additive force to our team. But that's not because of him. It's because the structure at the base was broken. So what do we fix? First, we fix the local structure. From 12, 13, 14, where are the best players going to play? Who is coaching them? That brings us to point number 2, appointments. You cannot be smarter than the quality of teaching that you received. Let's not overthink these things. You cannot outperform the quality of your teachers. That is just pedagogic 101. If your teachers are not smart enough, you will be limited. That's it. And so we need to bring in coaches who are very good at what they do. They are good at the man management and they are good at the football management. That's item number 2. And then we bring now item number 3, which is what I think Etofis is doing now, which is to provide a platform for players to come in, check into their hotel rooms, go play games, fly out, get their checks. No friction should be involved in that process. There should be no friction in that process at all. Because remember, we have all agreed here that players are carrying a lot of this blame, 70% of it. And so when we now say, as future administrations, when we now say, we've given you a structure since you were 12, 13. We've given you good coaching since you were 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. You've gone to a bunch of tournaments. You've come in first, you've come in second, you've come in third. And now in the national team, we're giving you a system of play. We're treating you well. We're checking into your hotels. We're putting you on good flights. You're flying in, you're eating good food, and you're going to these places to play your games. What excuse do you have now? I think that at this point, even though we can blame the players, any person who is intellectually honest can still look at our football and say that the system has failed the players. I still think so. Even when I see our boys running around, not pressing, not following after the last ball, not really putting in the work, not getting stuck in, as the British man would say, even when I see that, we can all still be intellectually honest and say that there has been a failure at the base. And so, truly, the answer to your question is that we need to go back. We need to create a national center of excellence. We need to make sure that our best players train there. They visit there. They know each other. Puyol and Casillas knew each other from the age of 12. Xavi and Casillas knew each other from the age of 12. So with or without Aragones, these guys had become friends in the lower basis of Spanish football. That is what saved Spain. That's what made it easy for Aragones to then bring them together and say, guys, you are not Barcelona here, you're not Madrid here anymore. Now you are a Spanish man. And you need to go play football as a Spanish man. I don't think we have that. We don't have that. When is the first time? Ask yourself, when is the first time Abubakar met Landry Bomo? When is the first time Bomo met Choupo-Moting? When is the first time Abubakar met Choupo-Moting? Normally, we should be saying that these boys met at 13, 14, 15. But the football is broken. Half of them are born in Europe. They are hoping to play for European teams. When that doesn't succeed, then they come join us. The ones who are playing for local leagues, our Ballon d'Or are now scattered across the world. Like Ajab has rightly pointed, that's a heartbreaking situation. So there's no connection between our players.
But let me ask you this question, Kenneth, before actually you conclude, right? So what will you say with those who say that Morocco, if you look at the Hakimis, there are a lot of players that were born in Spain and all that.
Yeah.
But then Morocco, through their national football system, have been able to integrate the foreign-born players together with the local-born players. And you now see, even in under 20, Morocco is going to play USA in the quarterfinals for the FIFA under 20 World Cup. And we know Morocco, they went to the semifinals of the World Cup. Morocco is already qualified for African Cup of Nations. Of course, they're hosting. And Morocco is also qualified for World Cup. So what will you say about those? Because those players actually did not know each other, when they were 12, 13 and all that. Although I'm not arguing against that point. It's a very solid point. But Morocco seemed to have found a way through their scouting in order to integrate all these players.
What you're pointing out there is that Morocco has found 1 or 2 generational talents. You see, we cannot rely on having a Hakimi. Let's be honest, Hakimi is a generational talent. We have to call a spade a spade. The fact that he doesn't play forward and doesn't score 40, 50 goals a season doesn't take that away. That guy is a generational talent. He is. And so that actually goes to my point, which is Morocco has a base structure. They have that base number 1, local players. Base number 2, middling European players. Base number 3, starting European players in their teams. Now, what survives them is that you can then drop in a Hakimi and you have your winning. You have a winning formula. Senegal almost had that in 2002, but we stood in their way. They almost had that. They had a good structure. Habib Bey, they had the current Senegalese coach or the former Senegalese coach, Diouf. They had a structure, but then we could then sprinkle El Hadj Diouf in there as the magic touch. When even his own guys know that when the going gets tough, you give the ball to Diouf. That's it. We had that with guys like Patin Goma. We were not playing exceptional football in the late 90s, getting to France 98 World Cup, winning that Nations Cup 2 years later. We just knew that when the going would get tough, Mboma will find a way. And so my point is not that everyone needs to know each other. My point is that we need to create the base so that if we end up having that superstar talent, which could be Baleba today, honestly, which could be even Bomo, when we end up having that guy, the guy comes in, and because he's so good, you drop him in, he's going to perform. And there are a few players like that across Africa. You have Salah. Take Salah, put him in any decent African national team. Salah will pick up from day one, and he'll play his ball. Put Salah in Senegalese team, and watch what happens. And even take Salah and give him to this Congolese team that Ajab you mentioned, how well they played in the Nations Cup. Put a guy like Salah in that Congolese team because they have such a tight unit. You drop a superstar in there, he's going to carry them. That is why historically Ronaldo has performed for worse teams than Messi, because Messi is the system. Your entire system is him. But Ronaldo is the kind of player that you take Ronaldo, you put him in a middling team. All you need to do is put the ball in the box and defend. Just defend, guys. Defend for your lives. Put the ball in the box. Something can happen. I'll give him that credit. But when you have a player who is the system, sometimes it doesn't work. So I'm saying that we as smaller African nations, we as smaller global powers, we should not be hoping for Messi. Frankly, we should not. We cannot even recognize that player in Cameroon. We'll damage him before he even makes it to 16. What we should be hoping for is providing the platform. So if we have a guy like Ronaldo, a guy like Drogba, a guy like Eto'o, these guys who the team doesn't have to be a certain way, they will just do their job. We are failing at that. And that is the most distressing thing, is that in Cameroon today, we would fail Hakimi. That's my point. The Cameroon, team today would fail Hakimi.
Yeah.
Of course, the Cameroonian team now is not looking good, and it's been that inconsistency did not only actually start today. Even in 2017, if you look at the team, and when I talk about inconsistency, I'm talking about, okay, the team won in 2017, but that same team did not go to the World Cup in 2018. You see, and then we went to the World Cup last year through a playoff system. So it's not as if the team of, the last World Cup in Qatar was actually a good team. However, there is something I want to point out to you here, Ajab. You spoke about players who were Ballon d'Or in the Cameroonian Football League. But there's a pattern. Most of the players that have come out from Cameroon and that are actually successful right now, I'm talking about the most recent, the Balaba, the Avom, and all that, are players of academies and not of the league.
There you go.
So the league players are actually not the talented ones.
Yeah.
All the talent is in the football academies. So how do you get those players in the football academies set their mind to, like, okay, I can play 2-3 years in Cameroon, gain some experience, still be able to feed my family? Because the problem here is not only on the pitch, right? It's psychological, it's mental. If someone knows that if they go play out there and get injured, they won't have money to take care of themselves, feed themselves. They don't want to play. They just want to play in the academies. Then the academies sell them out. And this is not only isolated within Cameroon. It's the same problem with Nigeria. Even it is the same problem for Senegal, although Senegal has found a way. I don't know if their structure will last for long. But how can Cameroon resolve this problem, in your opinion?
Okay, first, I'll just address something Kenneth talked about. Kenneth talked about Cameroon needs a Clairefontaine. Cameroon had a Clairefontaine before. Now they're claiming they have a Clairefontaine, but I think that's just a sham. It's something they call Anafoot. They said it's something. It's been there for almost 10 years. But I don't know any player from Anafood who's made success in football. Maybe they leave Anafood and they sign for a second division in Cameroon or a first division. I don't know. They call it. They say that's Cameroon's own version of football. But in the past, Cameroon had the Brazzaville Football Academy, not the one now that Baleba we call Brasserie. Cameroon had the Cameroon government or the Cameroon football system had so much trust and confidence in Brazzaville that they said, okay, we'll outsource. I'll put it like outsource. We'll outsource you the U16 national team. So Cameroon used to go to U16 national tournament every year in France, Montaigu. In 92, Cameroon had Song Bahanak, they had Patrick Soufo, they had Guy Foucheni. Those guys played in 92. Cameroon won the tournament in 93. In 93, you had Jose Marie Chango, you had Pierre Womelen, you had Simon Augustin, you had Jeremy Gitap.
All of them.
You understand? 1994, they won again. You had Simon Augustin, you had Chango, you had Anuji Nicolas, you had Ebongole, you had Simon Augustin, you had the same Jeremy Gitap and Wome. 95 again, they won. They had Olembe, you had Ngom Kome, you had Mamoun Blaise, you had Kalesone. You see, I'm just trying to mention. And then you have some plays for Cameroon U16 in 92. 1 year after he captains the junior national team 93 World Cup with Sufo. Next, the following 1 year after, he plays the World Cup for Cameroon. So you see transitioning, right? You have the same thing with, you have the same thing with Wome. You have Wome, you have Simu, you have Chango. They play in 94 for the U16. 2 years after, 1 year after, they play for the Junior World Cup in Qatar in 95. 1 year after, they play for the national team. That's transition. Okay, right now, you see a player plays for the national team. He's never played for the U10, U11, nothing. He leads from, and then something that's what's happening now in Cameroon is that the players, you see this player playing for Cameroon national team. This guy is playing well, eh? Where did he used to play for? The guy don't play for Canon. You know, he's playing now for the national team, but you never knew him back home. Maybe he played 1 or 2 games and he left. So we don't have that now. And like Two Lions said, we have academy players making the headlines in Europe. They are on the league players. They can't make the headlines out of Cameroon. So there's something that Brasserie, what happened to that Brasserie connection? That's what we need to revisit. And all these things.
I think,
go ahead.
Yeah, I think when you talk about that Brasserie connection, right? Back then, that was a monopoly. It was only Brasserie, right? So you could say that what Brasserie was actually teaching, right? They were teaching it maybe to about 500, 1,000. I'm just giving a number out there. Right?
Yeah.
So everything was actually, those players, they actually got to know each other. But now in Cameroon, you cannot count the amount of football academies that in Douala itself alone, just Douala alone.
Yeah.
And since we don't have good structures, our organizations and our the systems that back up this, is not actually strong enough, So we don't even know how, some of these players, some of the players that actually get out from these football academies, most of them, let's say even 99.9%, they don't actually play, in the leagues because the leagues cannot afford them. Everyone is looking at money coming out.
Exactly. Exactly. That's true. Because back in the days when the Cameroon League used to be Cameroon League, Tonnerre had a junior team. Canon, you see Tonnerre, you see 4 or 3 players are from Tonnerre Junior, Canon Junior, Union Junior, Diamant Junior. Now they don't have those things. So I think that's also another issue. And then you see, they just like it all boils down to the fact of the lack of professionality in the league. Because you see someone leaves the Elite One Cameroon to go play maybe a third division football in Egypt, because maybe that team in Egypt will give him $1 million francs a month. They would rather take $1 million francs a month in Egypt, where because they can barely make 50,000 francs a month in Cameroon. So that's also killing the talent, So that's also killing our league in a larger extent. But what we have to do when I say revisit Brasserie is not that we have to bring back Brasserie, but let's look at what the Brasserie was doing. What were they doing? What were they doing special? And one of the things I thought they were doing special was the Top Cup they used to play back in the days. Because most of the players that they used to select for the Brasserie school to end up playing the Montaigu, not all, but most of them passed through Top Cup. And then we used to, and then when Brasserie started dying down, we had the emergence of Kajispor Academy. Kajispor Academy came up too with the likes of Samuel Etofis. When he left Brazil, he went to Kaji. We have the Mokanjos, the Nkulus, the Manjeks. All those are graduates, are products from Kajispor Academy. But now there's a good thing. We have some academies now in Cameroon that are trying to maybe the EFBC, which is still Brazil, but not as big as it used to be. And then we have the Dauphin. There's an academy in Douala called Dauphin. I stumbled on a video yesterday on Facebook where they're actually playing a U15 tournament now in Benin. So they travel out of the country to play tournaments, which is exciting. And when you have tournaments like that, you're going to have scouts from outside coming to watch the tournaments. But that's going to help them for the future. But now I know your question is more directed to our Cameroon league, right?
Yeah, because the truth is that even when you look at the Obi Mikkels, you look about, it's not only isolated in Cameroon, right? You look about setting a lot of these players, they never played in their local, and that's why Nigeria, Cameroon is having that problem, right? Because the players that actually are groomed in the academies are being groomed for the money leagues, outside Cameroon, and the Cameroon league cannot actually afford them. But let me ask this question to our Watson. We are already at the 1 hour 30-minute mark. Anytime we have to start, shutting down. Cameroon has drawn 3 games in these World Cup qualifiers. Libya, Angola, Eswatini, where we lack rhythm and tactical direction. Even the back office, because a lot of these games, I can still remember like the fights and all that. But I want to point to you, because when you look at these numbers, because the Cameroon fans, we think that we have to just smash any of these countries and all that. But we fail to understand that at one point, football now has more exposure. Football has changed, although Cameroon has remained stagnant. There are 3 countries that will organize African Cup of Nations in 2027. I spoke to one of my friends. He's Pungong Kingsley. I don't know. Maybe some of you guys know him. He told me I should put an eye on these 3 countries: Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania. Tanzania, as we know, their league is already bubbling.
It's another story. Sorry to interrupt you, True Lion. A friend of mine, I also knows him, Dennis. He called me about 2 weeks ago when they were playing Super Cup, Simba versus Young Africans. He called me on video. I thought it was mid-90s Milan derby. The field was stacked, and everyone was putting on a jersey of either Young Africans or Simba. The field was stacked, packed, no space.
And that's what I call a positive football culture, right? Our football culture now is centered between a failing national team and individuals. Well, that's my opinion. But now, when you look at Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania, they're organizing in 2027. My friend actually told me that these countries can produce the greatest talents in the next 5-10 years. I mean, what do you make of this? What are these countries actually doing that Cameroon is not doing, or that Cameroon cannot sit and organize themselves in order to get at this point? Because now it's not that I've won 5 African Cup of Nations, I've gone to the World Cup 8-7 times. That doesn't write the future. We're talking about future. We're talking about consuming football. I mean, the right way, our culture. So what do you think Cameroon can actually do, or what are these teams doing that Cameroon doesn't, do?
They were busy. They were busy building behind the scenes, and we didn't pay attention. Now we are seeing the results. You have to be patient. Like, as a summary from what Kenneth and Ajab said. Okay, Kenneth, you made a point about Clairefontaine and True Lion. I'm trying to bring this to answer your question. Okay, so but let's say like the Spanish model. Admire the model, and you see when you look at Spanish football, there was a period that they suffered. They didn't win anything. There was pressure, but they were patient with their strategy, with what they were doing. All what we've been talking here from grassroots football. And when you watch La Liga, most of those teams, well, maybe excluding Real Madrid, you can visualize the way the Spanish national team, the way they play football. You can see it in those teams. Ajab, you know what I'm talking about. Even if you watch Real Sociedad or Barcelona,
even Levante,
Getafe. If you watch them, there's something there. So to me, I admire that. That's something the system, and the success, what they have been, the success has been, there was a period that they didn't win anything, and there was too much pressure, and they remain patient. So, how do I link that to what you asked me? So, you have to, now we are seeing the emergence of Uganda and so on. So definitely they've been busy building something behind the scenes, but we didn't pay attention. Now we are seeing we're just seeing the reward. So back to solve our problems, that what we should do. We should be patient enough, start building. We're in this something difficult with us Cameroonians, because we're so impatient on one solution to come overnight. Why it's not going to work like that in football, unfortunately.
Cosmetic.
Yes, it's not cosmetic surgery. So
okay. Yeah, go ahead. Finish. I'll let you finish. Then we're gonna read some comments.
Go ahead.
Now I'll let you finish. Then we're gonna read some comments, and then we're gonna close down.
Yeah. So my as a summary, we just have to believe in what we're doing. Believe in, be patient enough in building. There should be, and we're talking about the local leagues. I try to talk about the Spanish model, that you should, because Spain historically they are blessed with technical players. And they adapt their system based on that. And even in Cameroon, in a country, that should be also be the case. If you watch the league, we should be able to see, and this too comes with like the point Kenneth made earlier about the coaching. So we have to build. We just have to start building those structures to promote our talent.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for that. So let's actually go ahead and read some comments. I know some of you guys, if not all, know Wokia Kumasi. Yes. He said, because I made a point about players just leaving academies and going to Europe. He said, at least 60% of players in Elite One are from the local academies. Only the exceptional talent actually leaves directly to Europe. Okay, so thank you for that. Then Terence,
sorry, he said 60% off.
He says at least 60% of the players who play in Elite One come from from local academies.
Really?
Well, I'm not sure. Well, I cannot argue against that, but that's what he's saying. Let me see. Terence Akbar says the biggest challenge is the rapid export of local talent. These kids don't spend enough time at home to develop the spirit song had. The fundamental question becomes, how can the local talent be retained? I think you guys talked about that. Germans are today complaining of losing their identity because of both export and import of talents, including coaches. Some Germans have been blamed. Oh, some Germans have even blamed Pep of altering the German system.
Schweinsteiger did that.
Yeah.
But his comment, I don't know because that's his,
yeah. Then I think
when we're talking about Spain blueprint, even Germany had something like that. When they came back from a dismal Euro 2000, they decided to restructure everything. That's why the squad that played the 2010 World Cup, about 50% played the U20 World Cup before the year before.
Yes, and that's because of competition, right? Because in Europe, in football, I mean, those top countries are up there. They compete. The competition is rude, right? So they need to constantly change their system. However, there's one thing that they have. They have the base. They have the foundation. They have prosperous leagues.
They have a solid foundation. Yeah.
Exactly. So, well, we had comments on here, and in order not to make this too short, I'm gonna end with a comment because I had something, and then you guys gonna give your final thoughts, and then we can all shut down. It's been an amazing show, and I just like the way you guys actually come up with your various points and ideas. So I have this as a closing remark, that right, Cameroon has the talent and the legacy. We all can agree on that. But legacy without structure, right, breeds only nostalgia and not success. Closing remarks, guys.
Say that again.
I think we should from here we should go from youngest to oldest. That way the oldest will close. So I'll go first.
Yeah. So you start first.
I think for me the closing remarks are three things. Chulanyo, you mentioned Tanzania. The biggest lesson we can learn from Tanzania is that private individuals have invested money in football. At the end of the day, our rich Cameroonians, diasporans, businessmen have to find teams, support those teams, invest in those teams. We should be able to talk about us signing the Ballon d'Or from the Nigerian league. Why not? Why shouldn't we?
Well, we did that before. Remember, Raseng was in the 80s.
There you go.
With
Henry Wosu.
Oparaji.
No, Henry Wosu. Yeah,
Yes,
Henry
exactly.
Wosu signed for Raseng. Yeah.
There you go. We should be shopping in West Africa for the next Weah. There you go. We should be shopping in West Africa for the next Weah. Bring him to Cameroon, and then we sell him abroad for 10, 15 million euros. And then we can say our league is making that money. And then we have a 10, 15% sell-on clause on his contract. So when he goes out for another 75 million to another team, we make 10, 15% of that. That's the first thing. Rich people need to bring their money into Cameroonian football. The second thing is that the people who manage Cameroonian football need to be able to have a vision, a 5, 10, 15-year vision, and stick to it for long-term stability, for long-term growth, and so that if we have a generational talent, that talent then can just come plug in the holes. And then the final thing I'll say is that the country as a whole is not an island. The country needs to change as well. And that goes into the political arena that, I think goes beyond this particular live. I hope we can do another live on political things. But for this live, I'll say that
that's a different
the third issue is the political arena of the country. The country itself needs a revamp, because what's happening to football is happening to every industry in the country. Let's just be honest about it. So I'll close on that.
Yeah, thank you. Kenneth talked about Cameroon signing Nigeria's Ballon d'Or and all that. It's sad when Tanzania is signing Cameroon's Ballon d'Or. 2-3 years ago, one of the best, or arguably the best player in Cameroon football leagues, was a centre back for Cotton Sport, Chemalon. Chemalon left Cotton Sport for Simba. It should be the other way around, like it used to happen in the past. Cameroon brought Musa Kalon, Union brought Musa Kalon, James Deba from Liberia, Tone brought Jaffer Ndoram, Tone brought Kofi Abre from Ghana and all that. Now, our best players are going to play in Ghana, going to play in Senegal, going to play in Tanzania. Another thing I want to say is, we're talking about federation, we're talking about ministry, we're talking about club owners in Cameroon. The mindset is very different. Kenneth mentioned it. Yeah, they don't have a vision. What they do now is invest 50 million in a team, hoping to get 75 million by the end of the year. After the first year,
that's the patience we're speaking about as well.
After the first year, if they don't get that money, they step down. A new person comes back and says, no, they did not do 50 million. You know what? Me, I'll put at 25. You understand? So it happens with the club owners too. Those who stakeholders, those who put money in the club. It also affects the football. And when the players don't get paid, they don't go to games. That's why I was mentioning earlier that players turn down a league game to go play interquarters, because they know for sure that businessman will give them that 10,000 per game. But you go play the league game, they will tell you, say, Massa, na your future in the final. Una money, una future. When they sign you for France, na me you go sign. You know that mindset. Yeah, then fans too have a huge role to play. Someone comes, pays 2,000 or 3,000 francs CFA to watch a game, and at the end of the match, they're telling you, the player, say, I support you. You paid that money to get entertained. If you want to support that guy, get to the stadium, pay the $3,000, and then go back home. Don't watch the game. But as long as you're there to watch the game, you're getting entertained. Don't come and yell at the player or the coach at the end of the match. I don't give you 3,000. Now the thing you do, you did not give them 3,000. You paid 3,000 francs to get entertained. So some of the fans too, they're not helping. So it's a combined effort. It's a combined effort. And as I mentioned, it's sad when we have top players leaving to go play second-tier football in West Africa, not even first-tier football. Every day they're leaving. Every day you see players telling Massa, I need for chop, I need for put chop for table, I get family for feed them. They're leaving every day. 2-3 years, and that's why Tulay mentioned about. You mentioned something about nostalgia.
Yeah.
What did you say again? Please read that again.
Let me actually read that again just to remind you.
Yeah.
This is actually what I said. I said Cameroon has the talent and the legacy, but legacy without structure breeds nostalgia.
And that's why, legacy without structure breeds nostalgia. We're going to talk about I never ever see man where nobody the man, but the furthest he played was second division. You understand? That's the nostalgia we're talking about, right? Yeah, that's true. We have lots of examples. True Lion, you have an example for sure.
Of course,
you must have an example of a classmate or someone you grew up with, which you know is the most talented person you've ever seen, but he didn't go past second division. Zago, we have names. We can call 10,000 names today if we want to start talking about local players. That's true. It's because there's no structure. We'll say, Massa, I never ever see man where nobody the man. Then someone asks you, he play for which team? You say Peter in Campbell. You understand? Yeah. So yeah, that's the problem. No, that's the problem we have. So that's why that statement of talent without structure breeds nostalgia. We have nostalgia, but we only have nostalgia about this guy. But because there was no structure, they couldn't go past. They couldn't go past their ability.
Okay.
Thank you very much. We're running out of time. Thank you very much, Ajab, the Football Encyclopedia. Thank you, Ken. I think the whole thing has to be restructuring from top to bottom. Everything has to come into place. And then talking about there's this issue too. Because I remember even Ajab made a point about those who spend would invest more. I mean, I remember my late man Ashu Martin. May he rest in peace. At some point, I remember you should tell me about the story about the president, Club Bati, Sabli.
Yes, Sabli the Bati, yeah.
Yeah, so just come in, if you don't score, just go out. So anyway, talking about investment, so the restructuring start with investment. Those who understand football and are patient enough should invest, not somebody just pops up because you have money and you don't understand the fundamentals how football works, and you just come and causing trouble. That's another the problem that we have. And again, from administratively, True Lion, you've been talking about. So this is the point. Let me at least support your idea about the administrative issues. So the reform should be made, and those playing football in Cameroon, we want that dominance for someone who plays, to be like we mentioned those names, Wayans and so on. The league need the league to elevate to that professional level. Players should be able to play football and earn a living, not thinking about tomorrow I have to jet off to Europe. So
yeah, these guys play early football in Cameroon, right? As soon as the season is done, let's say the season is done in June. From July to September, they play in interquarters from every city in the country to raise funds instead of resting to prepare for the next season. You're playing from one interquarter to another. Yeah,
because if the structure is there, some of us, football, you can't take football away from us.
Yeah,
even those abroad can be part of the support to make things develop. So, but that platform has to exist. So that's the foundation should be there. That's what we're counting on. So, True Lion, over to you. You've been dwelling much about the administrative arm of our discussion. So that's part of it. And Ajab, in support of you made a point because the fans were part of the success. And fans too should be, where we shouldn't be getting stories about when we're growing up, people beating referees left and right and so on, So we should be because that hostility.
Hey, sorry, one thing I missed. Another thing, when we start match fixing, is becoming something very serious in Cameroon football recently. And no matter how we fix, no matter how teams come up with money or investors, when we have the wrong teams representing the country, it's going to kill our football. Match fixing has become a norm in Cameroon football in the last 1 or 2 years.
And that's part getting rid of that, eradicating that is all part of the restructuring we are talking about. So it's complex, it's a convoluted issue. And as I said, we have
thank
to
you
be patient.
Thank you guys. It's because there's no really strong organization. We don't have strong institutions, because if the organization structure is actually good enough, and everybody in that organization. And when I talk about organization, of course, government has to come in order to give tax breaks. Then you're talking about the ministry that represents government needs to be working together with Faker Food that actually controls, let's say, the rules and regulations. Then we also need an independent league, an institution that manages the league, because now there's a conflict of interest when you talk about Faker Food managing the local league. Is actually a conflict of interest. However, we need strong organizations for these things to be able to work. And I thank you guys again. We can do this anytime. And there's something that I'll be starting pretty soon. Let's say maybe as from next week, where we will do watch along parties. I will bring in intelligent minds like you guys in order to discuss, let's say, Liverpool playing against Liverpool plays Manchester United. We know we have a lot of Manchester United fans. They're like Terence Agbo on the comments. You know, those fans that we need to be consoling week in week out when Manchester United actually plays. So thank you guys. Thank you. I mean, it's a wonderful Saturday morning. We know that tomorrow is a very important day for our country. So we cannot leave here without telling people or those back home, you know, you should be able to go out there and vote and protect your vote and make sure that your vote actually counts. Last word about elections. If anybody doesn't want to say anything, then I'll go ahead.
Well, no, but that's well, from what we've discussed, it's important. We have to make it's not illegal. It's not illegal for us to drop a comment, because the stability that we need for football to succeed comes from the decision that has to be made tomorrow. So
exactly.
If the country is stable and the economy is good, all what we'll be discussing things, everything is going to pull in the right direction. So we should.
Yes. The guys should go out there, please. Anyone in Cameroon, go out there, vote and make your voice heard. There are a bunch of apps out there. Electactive.com. Go there, register. It doesn't require internet. That way, when you vote, you can register your vote, and so your vote is going to be tracked and counted globally, and then we'll know. These are the decisions that we need to make. We change the country, we'll change the football. We cannot have one without the other.
Yes.
Amen to that.
We know the powers that be in Cameroon are trying as much as possible to instill that the corrupt and fraudulent arm to make sure that the powers those involved stay there. But let's still try as much as possible not to give up. So every vote is going to count this time around. Let's hopefully it counts, and it's not just going to cast your vote. Stay there and see how everything goes, and then you leave. But we just wish the best for the country. That's why we're talking about Cameroon football. If not, I will not be part of this conversation.
There you go.
No matter how we damn it, no matter how we criticize, no matter how we insult Cameroon, we're still part of us, man. There's
It's
no way
a country. We can't have another country.
On this note, let's close. The same mosquito we learn from Man Pikin Canas. Now softly they take and
small, yes.
All right, guys.
Thank you guys.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.